Mini episode 755 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the FDH Lounge, mini episode number 755. You have with you your favorite football talkers in all the world, Rick Morris and Kyle Ross. It's another season of covering the NFL week by week on the program here. As I said to Kyle off air, I am thoroughly intimidated by the prospect of going through 16 games in 45 minutes. It takes us a while to get the pacing down. Suffice it to say, last year, Kyle was his usual stellar self, over 60% with his picks as per usual on the program. My big three picks and lock picks were not as stellar, to be sure. I was over 52.4% on all games for the year, which is my unicorn thing that will never happen again. So, Kyle, looking forward to another great season with you, my man.
It's that time of year, and in reference to the 45 minutes and 16 games, we are the Greg the Hammer Valentine of breaking football games down on a weekly basis. It takes a little bit. It takes us a while to get warmed up, you know. But once we get past that 15-minute mark, we usually get rolling. Or at least you do, and then start telling me to shut up about every other game. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's week one, though. I've been focused on these. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I always do it in such a velvet hammer kind of a way.
Yes, yeah. But, you know, it's week one. I've been actually looking at these games for weeks now. I've got a pretty good feel for them, and I think I'll be a little more succinct than I usually am, which is probably good for the listeners who are used to me babbling into coherence.
Well, too much Kyle Ross is never enough, but we have the structure that we do here, so we will get it in. We always do. I'm just always intimidated. I'm just always intimidated once we start out because it takes a little while to get back into gear. Start with a Thursday night game that, as per usual, this show should be getting up right about the time the game goes off, so we won't spend a ton of time on it. The Super Bowl rematch. The NFL hot-shotting this in the equivalent of putting Joe Angle 3 months in a row on pay-per-view. It's Carolina at Denver.
There you go again with those references no one knows about.
There'll be a few. This is a line where the vanquished Super Bowl team, Carolina, is laying 3 points. It had been the other way at 1.5 initially here. The twists and turns of the Denver quarterback situation dictating the line to a large degree. Both teams losing a little bit on defense in the offseason. You've got, obviously, Denver with a big question mark at quarterback here. Kelvin Benjamin coming back for Carolina. They didn't have him last year all year long. Didn't have Jonathan Stewart for a full game in the Super Bowl. And didn't have the need for revenge because they hadn't lost the Super Bowl until it was over. So I'm going to take Carolina in this one, laying the 3.
I was really hoping that this number was going to get to 3.5 today, but alas, it is not. As a matter of fact, some of the sharper books are actually now showing 2.5, so some people are taking Denver now +3. I suspect a lot of people are trying to middle this one and hope the game is decided by maybe 2 points or less. People who bet Denver or bet Carolina, plus the points really early over the summer. Now we're trying to buy them back at 3 because I think the line was even higher than 1.5 when it initially opened. Like, you know, the books who opened their numbers up way in advance. Yes, the revenge angle is going to be focused on, as is the Denver quarterback situation. Ricky, I think you would agree, though, as potentially bad as Simeon could be, there's not going to be this huge drop-off from the level of play Peyton Manning gave this team last year because he, quite frankly, wasn't very good.
Right.
I'm going to go with Denver. It would be a recommendation because of the timing of the show and the game. It didn't make my recommended list, but you asked me to play this one. I'm going to go Denver. You know me. Anytime I see the change of favorite, I always go with the team that's currently the dog. So I would lean to Denver. Two teams that are going to regress this year. Quite frankly, I would not be surprised if Carolina wins this game by 3 points and it's a push.
Ooh, could be. I think we've had.
I really wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
That was with, I think, the Patriots and the Steelers a couple of years ago. I believe that was the case. The Thursday night opener on NBC with the Sunday night team of Michaels, Collinsworth, and now Heather Cox. prowling the sidelines. Going to the Sunday games here, we have up Tampa Bay at Atlanta.
Sidelines there.
1 o'clock Eastern time at the Georgia Dome. Bucks Falcons. Sam Rosen, David Beal, and the lovely Holly Saunders prowling the sidelines there in Atlanta. This is a game where the Falcons are just laying these straight, boring, missionary position 3 points here to Tampa Bay. And when I look at these two teams, my first sense is, in terms of having their stuff together at the moment, just eye test kind of a thing, I like Tampa Bay, but I'm going to go with, you always tell me not to go with a game for a macro reason. I'm going to break that rule. I don't see Atlanta having an absolute shite kind of a year, but I think they will if they lose this game. I just see them getting off to a bad start after the bad finish last year. I'm not down on Atlanta. I think I'd have to be down on Atlanta to go against them in this spot. That may or may not make any sense, but I'm going to take the Falcons laying the 3.
Yeah, and there have even been some 2.5 popping up today, which I find odd.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about, you always like to make fun of the vanilla 3-point lines in week 1 or really at any part of the year. And usually I'm the one who defends the books. In this case, I'm going to question a little bit because that basically says these two teams are even, and I'm not sure about that. Both are holds for me right now. If I were to treat them as stocks, I think both teams are holds coming into the year from where they were last year. I don't think we're going to see huge improvement or regression from either one this year. So I'm going to stay off this game. I would probably, if you force me to, lean to Atlanta, though, just because I think they are slightly better than Tampa Bay, and this line doesn't say it.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And it shows you that level of hesitancy that we talk about week 1. Vegas is trying to still get a handle on where these two teams are at, as are the Sharps probably. So everybody is going to be learning a certain amount from what happens on Sunday. Next game up, Minnesota at Tennessee, 1 o'clock Eastern time from Nissan Stadium in Nashville on Fox.
Love this one.
Christina Pink on this game here, Stockton, Spielman, and Pink. And this game is another weird one because of the line here. You have Minnesota laying 2.5, opened at 3, was down to 1.5 at one point here. Questions about who's going to be in there, if it's going to be the newly minted Sam Bradford, if it's going to be the just shrug and grab your ankles option of Sean Hill just because he knows the offense a little bit better at this point in time. Who really knows? Thing of it is, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to agree with me, I'm not really sure that it matters. I look at the gap in talent between these two teams here at this point in time, and I look for a Minnesota team under Mike Zimmer ready to come out fired up and really stick it to Tennessee. Tennessee's pulled some week 1 shockers in the past, but I feel like that is due to end. And Tennessee, I'm not going to say that they're going to get blown out, but I do like Minnesota laying the 2.5 there in Nashville.
Yeah, you talk about the Tennessee week 1 magic. It's been the last 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did that. They killed the Chiefs 2 years ago, and then they killed the Bucs last year. I'd forgotten about that. Good memory. As you alluded to, I am on the Titans. This is my first recommendation of 2016. Anyone who got a chance to listen to our NFC North preview knows that I really believed the Vikings were going to regress this year. That was before the loss of Teddy Bridgewater. I believe you even agreed with me, if memory serves me correct, that Minnesota would regress this year.
Yeah.
So I think the Bridgewater injury certainly, kind of amplifies that regression that I already thought was going to happen. I think the trade for Sam Bradford was the first big misstep of the Mike Zimmer era, quite frankly. A horrible trade. I'm just going to flat out say it. I believe one of the worst in recent NFL history to trade 2 draft picks for that guy. I thought that was an atrocious trade.
I'm going to say this mildly in their defense. In their defense, I'm going to say this. I've been hearing from a number of people, nobody in the know, but just informed speculation, let's say. Teddy Bridgewater, unfortunately, may never play again. The severity of the injury, as bad as it is, this is something where they're looking at the next 2 years. And, again, he's the bridge to whatever comes next, no pun intended, but that basically – so does that change your thoughts any? Because if you're just going to value over replacement quarterback, you'd rather have Bradford than any of these chodes holding clipboards anywhere else around the league, would you not?
No. I would do something that I know people of your ilk don't like, and I would basically tank the season. I think they're trying to fight a regression that's going to happen anyway with this trade.
I kind of agree with that.
You know what? It feels like it sucks what happens to Bridgewater, and I hope what you're saying is absolutely not true because – for the most part, this team has been built the right way, and when I say they were going to regress this year, it wasn't because I don't like them. It was just because, they jumped from 7 to 11 wins last year. They won a lot of close games. Also, here's the real key with this game for me before we move on. Minnesota was the best ATS team in the league last year, 14-3 against the number. That includes covering the playoff loss to Seattle. Tennessee was the worst ATS team in the league last year, 4-11-1. Sing it with me, everybody. Regression to the mean. Tennessee, I think they take the game outright.
Well, it's not going out on a big limb with a real short line there, but yeah, I could definitely see it. And again, I want to say, I certainly hope the informed speculation is wrong. I really like Teddy Bridgewater. I want him desperately to be drafted by the Browns, although that could be looking like a blessing in disguise at this point in time. Hopefully that's not the case, but that just gives a little bit of background as to why they made the horrible deal that they did. Speaking of the Browns,
Ricky.
Yeah.
With Minnesota. Adrian Peterson, I believe, will have a down year by his standards this year. I think I said that in our NFC North preview, but it was a real benefit to him last year to have that previous season off. He's over 30 now, a little tread on the tires. Running backs age 30-plus, they tend to regress, even the great ones.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think the Vikings are going to have the little bit of regression this year as well, and I think they're fighting it, as you said. Up next, it's the fifth preseason game. That's the only thing you can really call it with these two shite teams. It's the Browns and the Eagles, 1 o'clock Eastern time from Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. Greg Gumbel, Trent Green, and Jamie Erdahl have been sentenced by CBS to work on this game. This is a matchup where Philadelphia, they opened as a 7-point favorite. It's down to 3.5 at this point in time. Ultimately, you have, it really comes down to it. With Carson Wentz now starting for the Eagles, and by the way, for anybody following the ongoing EDP commentary on YouTube about the Eagles, that is a real joy. Go check that out. Just Google that, folks. But as far as it goes in this game, Carson Wentz starting, a guy who barely had a decent degree of experience at a lower college level. This is the ultimate resistible force versus movable object here with this pathetic Browns defense that Carson Wentz is going up against. RG3 on the other side. Very rarely this year are you going to look at this and say, massive quarterback advantage for the Browns. This happens to be one of those games, quite frankly. If not for my policy of not putting a play down in a game, one of my big three recommendations on a game with two rubbish teams. By the way, I find myself using a lot of British slang here. I've been binge watching the thick of it, so I've got all this in my head here as I refer to them as rubbish teams. But I don't want to involve myself in a big three recommendation. However, I will take the Browns getting the 3.5, and I think they're going to win outright.
I love where your head's at, and I love that so many of my friends who are Browns fans kind of recognize that this is one the Browns should steal. I'm on them. It's, you know me. I love to play these kind of games, and the Browns are my second recommendation of the week. Let's talk about the line here, because the Browns are a sharp play this week. The Sharps are absolutely on the Browns, which you talk about having a quarterback advantage is rare. It's pretty rare that the Sharps are on the Browns as well. The line opened at 7, as you mentioned. It had moved down to 6.5 before the Bradford trade. It was then reopened at 4 and has then moved down to 3.5. So the Sharps have been kind of even undeterred by the adjustment from the lines makers to 4. I mean, they're still taking the Browns. I think the Browns are going to win 4 games this year. I know there's a lot of people who think that's crazy, but I think they're going to win 4, and this is one of them. The Eagles, anyone who listened to our NFC East preview knows I am very low on this team. I actually think they may finish worse than the Browns this year. Kind of what you alluded to earlier, to wrap a bow around it. A few weeks from now, we're going to look at this game and say the Philadelphia Eagles are favored to beat anybody. I just think it's crazy. I think the Eagles are really bad. I think the Eagles are a bad team, and the move to Wentz, oh boy. If there's one defense the Browns can show up against, or one offense the Browns defense can show up against, it's this one.
Absolutely. That Browns defense is going to look a lot better than they actually are this week.
And the Browns never win in week 1.
Certainly agree on that. Yeah, and you said that the Sharps are on the Browns. When I hear that, it's not at all a shock to know that Brian Billick isn't. Brian Billick's always going to be
awful.
On the other side of the Sharps. Yeah.
He's really bad on Twitter. He tweets a lot of just dumb things. I just wanted to follow up on what I said there with the Browns never win in week 1. What, are they going to lose week 1 every year?
Oh, yeah.
It'd be a good way for Hugh Jackson to kind of make a splash here. Didn't win a game in the preseason, so, this is, he's got to do something here. I know not much is expected, but he's got to show some signs of life.
he's a pretty shameless guy. He's going to come out at the press conference afterwards and go, "We were saving it. We were saving it."
Okay.
So we can look forward to that.
If he does that, I'm absolutely going to fucking lose. Okay? I'm absolutely going to fucking lose it. And I'm planning expect a phone call from me around 4:45 on Sunday if he does that, because that will be tremendous.
I just called it. It's going to happen. And how's this for a segue? The team from whence he just recently sprung, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're up next in a 1 o'clock game at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford against those Jets. CBS inexplicably putting their A-team on this game. Jim Nantz, Phil Simms, Tracy Wolfson, for whatever reason, on this matchup here. You've got, the Bengals, they are a short favorite on the road here, 2.5 points, had been 1 point at the open. There's a number of games where I really kind of went back and forth, didn't necessarily have a great feel. This is another one of those games. In the end, I'm going to defer to, again, like you said, I know you've said before, it's dangerous to go macro level, but I don't see a very good year coming up for the Jets, and I think it's going to be a pretty good year, not a great one, but I think another playoff year for the Bengals. In the end, coin flip kind of a game, that's what I'm going to defer to. Give me Cincinnati laying the 2.5.
This is a stay away for me. Cincinnati was one of the best spread teams in the league last year. I think they were second to Minnesota, actually. Yeah, 12-3-2 against the number. So that's due to regress a little bit, but also due to regress, I think, as we would agree, is the Jets overall. This is a team that I see falling back to maybe the 6 or 7 win mark. I'm staying away here completely.
Don't blame you for that. We've got, in the next one here, the Raiders at the Saints, 1 o'clock Eastern Time Sunday at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans on Fox. Chris Myers, Rondé Barber, and former Lounge guest Jennifer Hale on the call for Fox. This is a very, very interesting one. You've got the Saints laying 2 points. Initially, it's down to 1.5 now. It had been as low as 1, but 1.5 the number presently. This is one of the ones we talked about a little bit off air as far as that kind of funky line, which probably reflects the fact that the public, which I think has been very slow in recent years to catching up to the fact that the Saints are not the 2009 Saints anymore. I think the public is finally there. And like myself, there's a lot of people who are getting called hipsters who are on the Raiders bandwagon who think they're going to make the playoffs this year. So that is probably what accounts for this number here. Along those lines, I'm going to take the Raiders. I think they're going to be a wild card team this year. These are the kind of games that you win if you are a legitimate wild card team. You go in and you thump a Saints team that, again, especially defensively, has a lot of work to do. I am all over the Raiders here. They're a live dog getting that 1.5, buddy.
See, I was tempted to go the other way, and it's a macro thing, which we've talked about many times. I don't think the Raiders are a playoff team this year is what it boils down to. And I look at a Saints team that is 55-29 straight up against Sean Payton, or under Sean Payton at the Superdome, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, as so eloquently pointed out. I know that the Saints are kind of reaching their nadir, but this line to me, I'm actually laying off the game because I do want to wait and see maybe just how good Oakland might be or how bad New Orleans might be. Because I'm like you, I think New Orleans is like a 4 or 5 win team this year. But I could see this being one of those wins, actually, because the public has kind of given up on them, and that's the time to strike. I just look at this line, and it shocks me that this is New Orleans, Ricky, at home. I know that they're not what they were. Like you said, it's not the Super Bowl champion era. But, man, it's an early game for the Raiders. This is a team that going into last year, and I know the team improved a lot last year, had lost 19 of 20 road games. And look, ever since I've been on this program, I talk about how the Raiders are awful in 1 o'clock Eastern time games. They won a pair last year, but those were against Cleveland and Tennessee, the 2 worst teams in the league. So I'm actually going to lay off here. I was ready to give out New Orleans a few days ago, but I'm going to hold off.
Okay.
I've got enough bad teams on this week's card.
we got a couple of questionable teams in the next game here. It's the Bills at the Ravens. It is 1 o'clock Eastern Time Sunday from M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Spiro Dita, Sullivan Wilcox, Dana Jacobson on the call on CBS. Baltimore laying the standard 3 points at home. Yawn. Had been 2.5 initially. So that is, Ravens laying the 3. This is another one where I kind of went back and forth on it a little bit here. And in the end, ultimately, I'm having to take some lazy reasoning on some of the games this week here, just because I admit I don't have a real great feel at this point. But I feel like the Bills probably have a few more questions at this point in time than do the Ravens. The Ravens are at home, so as I go along, I'm sort of talking myself into the Ravens, and that's what I'm going to do, laying the 3.
Yeah, a lot of people have the Ravens on their most improved list this year. I'm one of them. I think that they're going to challenge for a playoff spot. This actually could wind up being a pretty important game, Ricky, at the end of the year. When you consider both these teams, I think, are on the short list for maybe getting that second wild card in the AFC. So this game could be a tiebreaker when it's all said and done.
Could be. I
do think, as opposed to the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game, which we talked about earlier, I think the 3 is justifiable here. I've got them pretty much as equal. Baltimore's at home, so I'm just laying off here.
Yeah, it is a hard one to kind of get a handle on, no question about it. The next one is very, very interesting as well. Whenever you have a Super Bowl contender going on the road week 1 to a place that they don't normally visit, it's always a different kind of dynamic. It's the Packers at the Jags, 1 o'clock Eastern time from Everbank Field in Jacksonville on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt, John Lynch, and the delicious Pam Oliver on the call here. And this is one where Green Bay is Green Bay is laying 4.5 on the road here to the Jags, and I'm a little bit torn macro level because I've gone out on record as saying I think the Packers will win the Super Bowl. I think the Jags will take one of the playoff spots in the AFC. I have them as a wild card, so ultimately it's hard for me to make a guess either way, but I do feel like the Jags in this game, because I'm on them the way that I am this year, I think they're a live dog even in this spot. That would really, really be a big statement for them. In the end, I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to make Green Bay sweat. And the Packers have been known in recent years to have a little bit of, not exactly trouble getting out of the gate, but I do remember them sweating in September a few different times in recent years here. This could be another one. I look for the Packers to make a narrow getaway, but Jacksonville to cover the 4.5.
I liked Jacksonville a lot better when they were 5.5. There's still some 5s if you shop around, folks. I'm not as high on the Jags as you are by any means. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think they're going to probably finish around 7 and 9. But too many people betting the Packers here. The old 80-20 rule. I know a lot of handicappers love to follow that when you got one side drawing more than 80% of the tickets. You go the other way, and that's what we have here. Green Bay, the most heavily bet side of the week. No surprise, they're a public team. You're on them to win the Super Bowl. That's not a bad call, quite frankly. I think Jacksonville keeps this one close. Green Bay, not only, you talk about maybe them struggling a little bit out of the gate, they've also been known to struggle certainly on the road at times during the Aaron Rodgers era.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of unfamiliar place. They don't obviously only come to Jacksonville once every, blue moon. So, yeah, give me the points here. This is a recommendation for me. This is number, what would this be? I had the Browns, the Titans, 3. And this one. This is 3.
That's
my third recommendation of the year. Okay.
All right. You're on that one. And, good point as far as looking around to see what the number is. Your advice actually mirrors the advice from my mother, who said when it comes to point spreads, you got to shop around. So you're certainly
Did she say that? Oh, very good. Very good, yeah.
Yes. That was her specific advice vis-a-vis Las Vegas. Absolutely.
She learned that when going to the University of Hawaii, right?
The greatest inside joke of week 1, to be sure. Speaking of week 1 and exotic Pacific locales, not as exotic as Hawaii, that would be Seattle, CenturyLink Field, 4 o'clock.
Great.
4:05 Eastern time. I scratched for that segue. 4:05 Eastern time.
Oh, it is. It's a great city. I love it.
The Dolphins and the Seahawks. Never been there, but I'd like to definitely visit it. It seems like a fun place. Former Lounge guest Ian Eagle joined on the call with Dan Fouts and Evan Washburn, and this is one where the Seahawks are laying 10 points. Had been 6.5 at one point. I think that's where it opened. Has been as high as 10.5. This is one where, again, this was really one of the more difficult ones of the week for me because I do kind of see what everybody is seeing vis-a-vis the mismatch. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that people are making some of the predictions that they are about this one being an absolute curb stomping. I'm going to ascribe this to a very, very weird sense that I have here. that while, again, I've been on record as saying I don't think the Dolphins are going to amount to much of anything this year. The Dolphins, my 1A team, but still, I got to be honest about that. I think under Adam Gase, I think he's going to get a little bit more out of them than you would normally otherwise get out of a team like this. I just have this crazy, weird feeling that it ends up being a late backdoor kind of a situation here, because it almost seems too obvious about Seattle just beating them down as badly as seemingly everybody thinks that they're going to. Even in USA Today Sports Weekly, where they almost never go out on a limb, their prediction is Seahawks 40-17. So that just tells me that there's this big screaming consensus out there that this one isn't even going to be close. So because of that weird sort of Adam Gase, weird kind of feeling I get here, I'll take the Dolphins in the back door.
And my advice here is to lay off this game and use Seattle in your eliminator pools. Certainly they look like the surest. I know that, using Seattle in week 1 at home is you might, miss having that one down the line, but I don't want to be. The mismatch is very, very real here. By the way, every time you say Iron Eagle, am I the only one who thinks about old WCW jobber to the Stars, Alan Iron Eagle?
I think you are the only person, actually. Wow, you thought my references were obscure. You're going out of your way to top me there, Broham.
No Clash 14 fans listening. That shocks me. Not enough people remember Clash 14, unfortunately. A sadly forgotten including
show.
half the people that were probably wrestling on it, to be honest with you. Dog shit show that
That's
one.
right. That's right. And speaking of sadly forgotten shows here, we have an NFC East matchup coming up next year. 4:25 Eastern time from AT&T Stadium, Jerry World in Arlington. It's the Giants at the Cowboys. Buck, Aikman, and Andrews, the A-team from Fox, are on this one. Yeah, because OMG, got to glorify an NFC East game, I guess, because media markets and whatnot.
God, it just gets no better with these storylines. It just gets no better. I could watch this stuff all day.
Dallas opened up laying 3.5. I'm assuming that was when Romo was still vaguely upright. Went down to a pick. Now I'm seeing it at Dallas -1 again here at this point. So I don't know if people have come to make their peace with the notion of Dak Prescott being in there. I will say that I probably have more confidence in a Dak Prescott in the situation he's in than Trevor Siemian, albeit Dak Prescott's going up against the Giants and Siemian is going up against the Panthers. A little bit of a difference there. It could be a shootout. It could be a wild game, number one for this kid in the league. But in the end, I'm going to go on the Giants. I don't know. It might be a thin read you're telling me that I'm hanging it on, but I just can't go with a rookie quarterback in this spot here. In a game it's going to be a shootout. I'm not sure that the Cowboys are going to do that great of a job of containing the Giants. The new upgraded passing game with Shepard inserted into there. Give me the Giants in this one.
Anyone who over the next several days tries to entertain the notion of Dak Prescott greater than Tony Romo, that's a terrible take. I just want to say that. What a sad day it was for America when Tony Romo went down. I don't know about you, but I wept for days. I mean, the NFL, America, the world, really all just a worse place right now without Tony Romo on our televisions every Sunday. That said, I do think Prescott can come in here and do a good job. The Cowboys are a team where, although we saw last year the quarterback play, really drop off with Romo out of there, I think as long as you get someone who's not replacement level, and I think Prescott can actually be kind of good, this team's going to be okay because the offensive line and the running game. I know that you predicted big things for Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I went on the record and picked the Giants to win the division this year. Mm-hmm. It's kind of one of my more shaky calls. If that's true, they probably do win this game, but I'm laying off because the number's doing too many funky things. Prescott's an X factor. I've got to watch him. One good thing about this, as much as we poo-poo the NFC East all the time on this program, and deservedly so, one good thing about this being a national TV game is I can kind of sit and focus and watch Prescott and kind of see what, get a real opinion on him. Because he didn't look good in the preseason, but that's preseason. Yeah, you'll get a much better handle on it here. I, too, wept when Tony Romo went down, and by wept, of course, I mean laughed uproariously. So there's that. But, you're
up next.
Yeah, boy. Such a hardline conservative.
Detroit at Indianapolis up next, 4:25 Eastern Time, Sunday on Fox at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Five-time lounge guest Kenny Albert is joined by Daryl Moose Johnston and the lovely Tandora Oakman in this contest. Indianapolis is laying 3.5. It had been 5 initially. I'm going to credit USA Today Sports Weekly here for this little nugget, and this is why I'm going the way that I'm going. If you look at last year with the Colts, their opponents were 8-3 when rushing for more than 100 yards, 0-5 when failing to top that mark. And I look at the Lions with what we would continue most of us to call an unsettled running situation here. I'm going to say the Lions don't crack 100 yards rushing. Hence, I will take Indianapolis to cover the line, 3.5.
That was a very un-PC, or I'm sorry, pardon me, a very PC way of talking about the Lions running game. I'll tell you what, Trump has really made an impact on you, Ed. You're really running away from the grand old party these days, aren't you? Wow. This was a game initially I had zero interest in playing. When I first looked at the Week 1 slate, over a month ago at this point, I looked at this game and it was kind of right there with Bengals Jets and Ravens, Bills, and I'm like, no interest here whatsoever. But then a little funky thing has happened over the last week. Sharp money has really shown up on the line. The ticket count is still about 2-1 on the Colts, Ricky, but this line is going in the opposite direction. That's sharp money moving this one. I'm going to side with it, and I'm going to go with the Lions here. You and I have kind of been in agreement that the Andrew Luck era has featured a lot of little L Luck for the Colts.
Yes.
And I think that even with him back, they've still got to pay the piper. I'm not that high on them. I mean, these are two teams. The reason I was kind of a little lukewarm on this game from the outset is I don't feel I have a great handle on either of these teams. You have Indianapolis, who theoretically should improve with Luck's return, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then you have Detroit, who theoretically should kind of go in the toilet with Calvin Johnson retiring, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if the Colts don't necessarily improve and the Lions don't necessarily regress, maybe this is one they steal. As long as you can get more than a field goal, go with the road dog in this one. Recommendation.
Ooh, that's your you didn't know special for this week.
Yeah, I was going to leave that for you. That's your spiel there, man. Yeah, you got to hit the time cues here.
Thank you. Thanks for leaving that one there. Down to our last 5 games here. We go to the Sunday nighter. Patriots at Cardinals. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jim Caldwell will be the Mr. Ass of the operation and just sort of stand there and do nothing.
Yes, he will. This is the Jim Caldwell Bowl between these teams.
That's
all right,
point.
Sunday night Sunday night, 8:30, University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale on NBC. Patriots at Cardinals, the two teams that lost on Championship Sunday last year. The troika of Michaels, Collinsworth, and Tafoya on the call in this game here. Arizona is laying 6. It had been 5.5 initially. Much
it had been a pick.
Questioning? Yeah. Well, a lot of questioning at this point about, with Jimmy Garoppolo in there, what exactly is going to be the drop-off for New England. My guess is a decent drop-off, but I don't think he's among the dregs of the league either. But this is a game where you got to figure Arizona's going to be coming out fired up. They're a legitimate Super Bowl contender again this year. Give me Arizona laying the 6 points. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout, but it could be, I think, a comfortable win.
See, I think if you like Arizona, you've already missed your window here. The number was actually a pick before the Brady injury, or before the Brady suspension was announced.
Okay.
So I actually know a lot of people that were anticipating this that bet Arizona as a pick 'em and are holding that ticket now and probably feeling, quite frankly, pretty good about themselves. I just feel that the going with Arizona here, especially kind of how you and I were in some surprise agreement that maybe this team isn't going to be quite as great as some folks think they will be this year, is just kind of a mistake. I think it's too much of a knee-jerk reaction to Garoppolo. I'm laying off here. Belichick as a dog is not someone you want to go against typically.
That's definitely something to consider. Up next, we have the first Los Angeles Rams San Francisco 49ers game in over 20 years. This one taking place at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara.
Same old sorry-ass Rams.
Monday at 10:20 Eastern time near the second half of the doubleheader on ESPN with Beck, Chris Berman Steve Young and Lindsey Sarniak on the call.
Me.
You have the Rams laying 2.5. It had been 2 at the open. Of the two teams that I think are slightly now, as I channel Malcolm Tucker yet again from the thick of it, the slightly less rubbish team right now would be the Rams. Again, so I will be on them. I think they have a little bit more stability right now. Give me the Rams going to 1-0 in their return to L.A. I know they're not playing in L.A., but their first game back as the L.A. Rams as they go up to NorCal. I like them to cover the 2.5.
Yeah, I got no interest in this one. I'm really down on both teams. Let's, of course, reference what the 49ers did last year on Monday Night Football, that being pull the upset on Minnesota, an upset I called. I was on them last year, if you remember. I don't see the value, though, this year. And I'm sure that the fact that they won the game last year is going to be referenced quite a bit in the build-up for this. Hopefully we will not revisit Chris Berman laughing wildly at, quote, Jim Tom Sula 1-0 having the best win percentage in 49ers history, which we had to see last year. That was so bad. The one thing I will say about playing this game, because it's the last game of the week and people might want to get themselves out of a hole or just have one more winner, you're watching this. The total is dropping like a rock here. Very rarely do you see the public this loaded up on an under, but they are loaded up on an under here. I mean, overs is always the public play when it comes to a total. I'd wait for this number to keep dropping. It's as low as 43 right now, and actually look to go over. Chip Kelly's still going to look to push pace people, even if his personnel is kind of lousy. And who knows, you might get a defensive touchdown or two in this one. Over might be the good call here.
Exactly.
Not a recommendation, but just a way to look.
Gotcha. Well, we skipped the first Monday night game because we always do my big 3 games last, and this is one of them. The 7:10 game on ESPN Monday Night Football from FedEx Field in Landover. Steelers at the Redskins. Sean McDonough, John Gruden, Lisa Salters on the call on ESPN. Pittsburgh laying a flat 3 points here. Again, you talk about home field, but the grubby sort of unwashed masses that like to travel with the Steelers and overrun other people's stadiums. You're going to have a little bit of that, so it's going to negate the home field a little bit here too. I just look, quite frankly, at a game in the trenches as far as stopping the run and establishing the run for the Redskins. And I think they're going to have a little bit of an issue in a game like this. Of course, everybody knows as a lifelong Clevelander, I am no Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I'm being completely unbiased when I say take them as the first of my big 3 picks.
I kind of like how over the last year or so, road favorite Ricky has gone with ones that I think are not quite as execrable. I don't bet road favorites, as you know, but I don't hate this call. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say this. If you want to save Seattle in your eliminator pool, do what I think I'm going to do and go with Pittsburgh here. I don't want to lay the points, but I definitely think Pittsburgh wins.
You know what, though? I'm not a big fan of the save somebody week 1 strategy here.
Okay.
You have to win every week to make it that far. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of looking down the road.
Okay.
That's just my opinion, but I've seen people
run into problems
with that.
To me, with Seattle at home, you're looking at 8 possible chances to play them, and they could probably win all 8. So,
that's
Pittsburgh's an awful lot of wins too, but yeah, I hear you.
Up next, the second of my big 3 plays on Fox, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, NRG Stadium in Houston. The Bears at the Texans. Tom Brenneman, Charles Davis, and Peter Schrager on the call, and this is a game where Houston is laying 6 points. It had been as little as 3 initially, and then it started popping up to 6, 5.5. Now it's back up to 6. This is a game where I'm on Chicago because I picked the Bears as a wild card team in the NFC here this year. Year 2 of John Fox. It normally doesn't take a Fox regime long to really kind of start cranking. I'm uneasy with the consensus on both teams. You're hearing an awful lot from people looking at this game like, oh, you've got the mighty Super Bowl contender Texans against these lowly Bears who actually think they have a chance in this game somewhat. And I look at these two teams and I say, gee, I don't think that they're really separated by that much. And in some areas, certainly I like the Bears a little bit better. We're going to get to see this. Again, they're going to lose something with Adam Gase not there this year, but they're going to have White coming in at wide receiver here, Kevin White, who they didn't have any of last year. This is more so just sort of a shaking my fist at the cloud protest against the consensus that everybody's making about these two teams right now. I think the Bears are getting a decent amount of points here. This is almost a why ask why. I'm almost on Houston because I think it's such a bad line, but I'll take Chicago getting the 6.
I don't agree with anything, or I don't disagree with anything you said, quite frankly. I think it's
okay.
Not accurate. I'm a little higher on Chicago than most, and I'm a little lower on Houston than most. I'd be a little bit careful about touting them as a Super Bowl contender. But I'm going to lay off. This is one of those games that originally it was kind of that dead number, 5.5, and I just kind of drew an X through this one, and I haven't thought a lot about it. But I'll be honest with you, you made a hell of a case for the Bears there, Ricky.
Oh, thank you. That's how I see it, and I'm just sort of puzzled that other people don't see it the same way. Which brings me to the last game here, my 1,000-star gold-plated lock of the millennium.
Which we did not see the same way
in 2016. It's the Chargers at the Chiefs, 1 o'clock, Arrowhead Stadium on CBS. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon on the call. And you and I talked about this off here. We see this differently, even though we both see the same dynamic at work here, which is a very weird line. Kansas City laying 6.5. It had been up to 7 at some point. It's back to 6.5 now. And this is just a thing here, again, where I'm not nearly as high on San Diego, nor are most people, as you are this year, but I recognize that it's not 2015 anymore, and they're not down there with the dregs of the league from being injured and everything that happened to them last year. So a spot like this, I don't get it about this line. I think this line is so bad. This is a why ask why special for me, and as such, I'm going to make it my first lock play of the year. I'm on Kansas City just because I think this line is so horrid. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to go with it. I've had pretty good luck with that strategy over the years, so there's my lock.
Weird time to show respect to the lines makers here. I'm like you. I think it's a horrible line. The difference is I will be taking advantage of it. I believe San Diego could win this game outright. And to your point, what is a little scary is I shouldn't be really confident that a 7-point dog can win outright. It's just not often that I have that feeling, but it is week 1. You alluded to it. I'm higher on San Diego than just about anybody. I have them winning the AFC West. They're my most improved team in the year in the league this year. That's usually a pretty good spot to be in. It was Tampa Bay last year. They jumped from 2 to 6 wins. I forecast an even bigger jump from the Chargers this year. All the key indicators go their way. While many key indicators were pointing down for the Chiefs, the team being touted as the AFC West favorite with Denver expected to regress, they could be missing both their best offensive and defensive player in this game. We know they're missing Justin Houston. He's out for, 6 weeks or something. And what's Jamal Charles' latest status? I was reading he may not play either.
He may not play as of when we're recording this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think it's a horrible line. I just think that the key is I think you're being influenced too much by me, and because most people don't think the way about San Diego that I do. They just think San Diego's some crappy 4-12 team from last year that ain't going to do much. They have quadruple revenge here, too, by the way, which I love. They've lost all 4 meetings the last 2 years to Kansas City. I absolutely love this game. It's probably my strongest pick of the week, too, but I'm on the other side. Recommendation.
Well, I'm just weirded out when the odds makers take a big stand on something, which they don't generally do week 1. That's what makes it stand out to me.
I don't know if they're taking a stand. I just think that they are banking that most people don't think the Chargers are going to be as good as I think they're going to be. And if you look at the betting percentages, it's not overwhelming on Kansas City, but there's more written on Kansas City.
All right. Well, I'm going with the Chiefs as my lock, with Pittsburgh and with Chicago. You are on Tennessee, Cleveland, San Diego, and San Diego. So a great week 1, Kyle Ross. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing it all play out.
And Detroit and Jacksonville.
Detroit and Jacksonville as well. All right. Got those noted.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, everybody, to the FDH Lounge.
As we bring the show to a close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, all Clear Channel affiliates, TNT, TBS, USA, UPN, Deadspin.com, YouTube.com, YTMND.com, MySpace.com, various blogs, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, IamBoard.com, Billboard.com, Google.com, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, NBA TV, NFL Network, Sports Time Ohio, Athlon Magazine, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, The Boomerang Channel, QVC, BET, The Spice Channel, Steno Notebooks, Manwich, Papermate Office Supplies, waitresses, strippers, bartenders, garbage men, janitors, microwave popcorn, the writers of The Office, Scrubs, Entourage, My Name is Earl, Oz, Metalocalypse and the Boondocks, Aquafina, and the periodic table of elements.